Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the February 26th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Amy, can I have a roll call, please?
Ed?
Here.
Here.
Okay.
Here.
Morissette?
Here.
Odine? Here. Page?
Here.
Watson?
Here. Okay, next we have approval of minutes from the February 12th meeting.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next we have approval of the bills with Mr. Watson.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I move for the approval of the bills in the amount of $8,307,900.56, subject to the comptroller.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to public comments. If there's anybody in the audience has anything they'd like to stand up about, now would be the time. Go on up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I promise to be more mindful of your time than when I was here a couple of weeks ago, but just wanted to come back and provide a quick update in regard to the status of the carnival relocation for River Falls Days. So as I mentioned before, we've been trying to identify a new location, and this has not been an easy task. So a couple of updates. Excuse me. We have evaluated over 14 different proposed sites. At this point, all of them have been eliminated for various reasons. So access to power and water, overhead utility lines, lack of permission from property owners, impact to businesses and residents, tree canopies, and simply a large enough space can quickly eliminate the availability of use for property. So to put size into perspective, in a perfect world, a carnival could use the space of a football field. We don't have that readily available to us at this time. The previous carnival location was close to 66,000 square feet, and that did not include location for housing trailers as well as semi-trailers that would bring the carnival rides to the location. The space that we proposed 2 weeks ago that we felt was our best alternative at that time was just half of that. So that was 31,000 square feet. And the upper City Hall parking lot that was mentioned as well has closer to 26,000 square feet, so considerably smaller than the location that we've had the last several years. There were also questions in regard to the attendance for the carnival. What we can tell you is that close to $30,000 are spent at the carnival last year over River Falls Days. This could be spent on rides or food. Each ride requires a different amount of tickets, so it's very difficult to go back to that number of attendance. But we do know that you can purchase a wristband for $20 and say each participant spent $20 while they were there. That would be 1,500 participants. So over the 4-day period, on average, that would be 375 attendees per day. That prompts the question, with $30,000 being spent on the carnival, is that money that could be reinvested elsewhere into our community? While we respectfully understand that there is interest in having a carnival, for some of the reasons that I just mentioned, we are discontinuing our search at this time for a new location for 2019. So instead, we're recommending that we refocus our efforts and leverage many of the already existing family-friendly activities that take place over the weekend. At this time, I would welcome the community to consider if there's an individual or an organization that is interested in bringing additional activities my door is always open, and I would welcome them to give me a call. So I just wanted to provide that quick update, and unless there's additional questions.
Thanks. Oh,
Could I ask I want to be very careful here because this is not an agenda item, and I don't want to have any discussion, but I think I am allowed to ask a clarifying question. Does this mean the carnival's gone forever? Is it going to come back next year, or is it probably gone forever? That's all I'll ask.
That's a great question. If I had a crystal ball, I'd be able to answer it more accurately. What I can tell you is this year there will not be a carnival. After River Falls Days, we'll continue to evaluate. Right now, the space that is available is the space available. I don't know what will be available next year. If there's property that comes forward and it's a good fit and that works, we definitely consider bringing them back at this time. So I don't know.
Thank you.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And make sure and tell the committee we appreciate everything you guys have done.
I will do
I know
that.
council sent you back with a tough request last time, so tell them we appreciate all the help.
I will. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, anybody else have anything? Okay, move on to, come on up, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Kent Johnson. I'm a resident of Hudson, Wisconsin, but a member of the Captoish chapter of Trout Unlimited. And I just wanted to take a minute to thank the City of River Falls for your proactive approach to stormwater management. There's an agenda item coming up here, your 2018 annual report for MS4 system that is the permit-required stormwater management activities that the city has to undertake each year. So, but the city's involvement in stormwater management dates way back to the early 90s when our chapter first became involved. And what is really notable is that the city has been involved in this for so many years, and before there were regulatory requirements promulgated by Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and that is a real credit to the staff that the city has had over the years, and particularly Reed Ronsky, who has been city engineer for 20-some years now, and has always had stormwater management at the forefront. And also current staff, Crystal Raleigh and Zach Rainier. I think Zach's here to present the report tonight. So I just wanted to thank you all for your commitment to stormwater management. It's really important for protection of the Kinnickinnick River. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Stormwater management is a key part of the Kinney Corridor Plan. So we'll look forward to making additional progress on that in the future. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, anybody else? Okay, and we'll move on to, we're going to get Brent Johnson, our Assistant to the City Administrator, will give us a update on the strategic plan.
Just gonna push a few buttons here, so. So, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I always forget there's a screen right in front of me too. So we're going to talk about the updated strategic plan, and then just the fourth quarter of the strategic plan as well. So 2018 was the first year that we had the second updated strategic plan. So this was a plan that was passed back in July of last year. And then this year, or this strategic plan, has 4 new goals to go along with it. So it's connected community, economic vitality, financial sustainability, quality municipal services. So it's a little bit less than we had in the last strategic plan, but we feel like these goals and key outcome indicators are very strong and very measurable as well too. So we wanted to start off with going over a connected community. and some of our desired outcomes in those as well. So the first one that we have is engage community. And some of these were the targets and the statuses are going to be kind of in the air right now just because we're currently working on developing the 2019-2021 work plan. So this is kind of being based off of a little bit of the 2017-2019 work plan and then 2019-2021 work plan as well. But so for example, in engaged community, our target is we have a couple ideas of what we want to do with that, such as looking at social media users, how many people are voting in elections, et cetera. And then looking at our other one would be an effective communications with citizens. So we're in the process of developing a communications toolbox right now. And then we'll hopefully have that done by about May of 2019. And then the last one for connected community is progress on the Kinney corridor. So we've already accomplished one of the major project milestones, which is passing the Kinney River corridor plan. And then right now we're working on the public-private partnership group. And then that next meeting is actually going to be March 7th as well. So it's a little plug-in for there. Our second one here is economic vitality. So some of these labeled here are kind of obvious. So we got thriving corporate parks. We have a target of 20 million in increment by 2022, and then having 50 acres ready in our parks, and then we're pretty close to that already, actually. So we have about 18 million in increment from 2018 alone, and then we got about 15 million in increment from Sterling Ponds projects such as TW and then Winfield. Housing that supports economic development. We're currently establishing category targets, but we're looking at how many units are being created in single-family, multifamily, affordable housing, et cetera there. And we're going to be benchmarking against the Maxwell study that happened, I believe it was last December, or last, yeah. So we're going to be basing off that. And then our last one here is the clear economic development strategy. So right now, we're working on creating a economic development marketing plan. And so hopefully we'll have that done by June of 2019. And then for here, for financial sustainability, we're looking at prepared for financial contingencies. So the one there is we met their goal last year of having 50% of our reserves in the general fund. Having diverse revenue sources, we had 72%, and our target was 70%. And then we wanted to have an excellent credit rating as well. So we maintained. In June of 2018, we were notified that we had a AA2 general obligation bond rating, and then we also have a A1 rating for our electric revenue bonds. And then our last goal here is quality municipal services. So satisfied citizens, we want to have 90% of citizens indicate that they're satisfied with city services. And then we're currently working with the National Research Center to conduct the 2019 citizen survey. So that will go out most likely in either late May, early June, sometime then. We're going to have a regular review of city services. So we want to complete one major service area review per year. And then we're looking to do an ambulance review this year and then an assessment review in 2020. And then we want to look at how are we adequately responding to meet service demands. So we're currently developing staffing benchmarks right now, which is just kind of looking at industry standards and performance measurements. We'll probably look at what ICMA recommends or the APPA, what they recommend as well, and et cetera. And then our last one here is sustained capital investment in public infrastructure. So this is our infrastructure report card. And then our current rating right now is a B-, which is very good considering that we were looking for a C or better in 70% of our measured categories. So the next steps is we're going to be switching this up from a quarterly report to a semi-annually. So the next time you'll see me in this regards will be in August, and then we're going to be having more. By that time too, we'll have our 2019-2021 work plan in order, and then be able to base more of the strategic plan off that than what we're currently going off of. So with all that being said, is there any questions that I can help answer tonight?
Nope, guess not. Thanks, Brent.
Oh, easy.
You want to just stay up there for the
I
room
think,
tax?
yeah.
Okay. Well, before we do anything, well, Brent's going to give us a little presentation on the room tax, and then we'll go into the public hearing.
Yeah, so this is the second reading of the proposed room tax increase tonight. We'll just go over a little bit of the background and the purpose of the room tax, and then what some of the proposed uses of that increased room tax will be. Just for a little bit of background, the state of Wisconsin allows municipalities to adopt a room tax for tourism and tourism development purposes. So at the end of 2018, over 300 municipalities in the state of Wisconsin have adopted a room tax ranging from cities, villages, townships. And then in 2008, the city of River Falls adopted a room ordinance tax for about 5%. And so we wanted to look at some similarly sized municipalities out there, such as Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire, Hudson, and then so it kind of ranges between 3 and 8% because the current state law for a municipality of our sorts is at 8%. There's some in the Fox Valley, such as I think Oshkosh, and then Milwaukee. They have 9 or 10% rates there, but they have special clauses in the Wisconsin statute for that. But as you can tell, there's a lot of these are above 5% for the most part, such as Whitewater, Marshfield, Menominee, Chippewa Falls, etc. So currently, the city collects a 5% tax on all hotel stays and transfers. About 70% of the revenues to the chamber for tourism promotion and development activities, because the Chamber of Commerce acts as our tourism arm, if you want to say, for the city. And so the city of River Falls currently receives about, or they currently budget about $130,000 in room tax revenue per year, with $39,000 being retained by the city and then $91,000 being sent to the Chamber of Commerce. So revenues are used to support tourism and development through support of chamber events, regional economic development organizations, and public infrastructure. So events such as Baking Bash, River Falls Days, and the Bluegrass Festival receive support from those revenues, from that 5% tax. So assuming similar room stays in 2018, a 1% increase, so the move from 5 to 6%, would generate about $25,000 in that range in room tax revenue. And of that $25,000, $7,000 would be allocated to the city, and then $17,000 would be allowed to the chamber. So what the city would do is they would just use that additional $7,000 just for ongoing additional. It would just be used the same way as we're currently using right now, that we don't really plan on going out and doing any more big projects with that. With the chamber, that provided some potential opportunities for consideration with the increased funds. So it would be providing support for the wayfinding sign project, which would be about, I'm saying, $7,000 to $10,000. Provide support for Pierce County EDC, Tourism Economic Impact Study, and that's about $1,000 there, and then provide support for the Kinnickinnick River Economic Impact Study, and that would be about $2,500 right there. So with that said, is there any questions that I could help answer?
Not, you're just doing a great job, Brent.
You guys are easy, thanks.
So with that, we'll close the council hearing and open a public hearing on the ordinance 2019 adopting an increase in room tax which Brant just gave us a presentation about. Is there anybody in the audience has anything like to say about this? Okay, nothing? So we'll close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing, and I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, we adopt the increase in room tax, ordinance number 2019-02.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I got a quick question.
Yep.
I noticed on the accounts receivable aging, there's a $100 late fee for one of the establishments in town. Is that late fee a placeholder for what we think we're getting, or is that an actual fine that we assess?
It's an actual late fee for not turning it in the end of the month following the quarter.
Okay,
We usually give them some extra time to do that, but in this case, it was getting kind of late, so we gave them a late fee. Yeah.
okay. Is that a typical, do we have problems collecting?
It comes and goes.
Okay,
Most of the time not,
okay.
occasionally though.
But everybody's relatively current right now?
I think, I didn't check this week, but there was one that wasn't paid last Friday, but I think they were coming in, so,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
I have one question too. When was the last time we had a rate increase?
We have not had a rate increase since the original adoption in 2008. We've had adjustments to it, such as allocation to the chamber, but other than that, not an actual rate increase from 5%.
Okay, thank you.
Those adjustments that you're speaking of, was that just purely legislative on a state level, or was that on a city level?
It was mostly, well, it was a combination of the two. So I think the one major one was back in 2015, I believe it was, when there was an adjustment in the state, how they define tourism and tourism development. It used to be, I believe, economic development. They kind of clumped those in, but then they went in and changed that. So then being able to allocate it from, I think it was like 67% around there, then it changed to 70% then of that revenue would go to the chamber, or your tourism arm, I should say.
Right, thanks.
One thing I wanted to bring up from the report was that while the city isn't going to take on any new types of projects with this additional revenue, that it's estimated that the current fund isn't covering our in-kind labor and equipment expenses for the large events that are happening already. So these funds would help to offset those in-kind contributions that we're making for these events. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, anybody else? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, we're gonna have a presentation, let's see, Zach Rayner, he's our civil engineer, he's gonna give us a presentation on the stormwater permit. And then after that, we'll have a public hearing on it.
All right, so as the mayor said, my name's Zach Grenier, civil engineer with the city. Along with Crystal Raleigh, our senior civil engineer, who's in the audience, we primarily manage our storm water programs in the city. Part of that is doing an annual report for our MS4 stormwater permit for the DNR. So that's what I'm going to be talking about here quick. To kind of talk about what we're going over, brief intro on what the permit is, the history of it, dive into the 6 permit measures and how we comply with them, and then finish off with another brief talk about our TMDL compliance. So let's get right into the history. So the MS4, which stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, that kind of started back in 1972, I guess, with the Clean Water Act, helped give some regulation authority to regulate point discharges, but it wasn't too aggressive. Eventually, the federal government passed it down to the states to administer. Wisconsin rolled out Phase 1 in '97 to permit big communities, 100,000 population or bigger. Then in 2006, rolled out Phase 2 to hit the 10,000 population or bigger communities. That's where River Falls was pulled in. Since then, they've gave a few updates. 2014 added some more communities based on the census, such as Hudson. And then last year, a big step was mandatory report on our on everyone's TMDL compliance if they were subject to a TMDL, which we are, and I will go over that mainly here at the end since we went over that in detail last year. So our permit requirements, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail on each one of these. There's 6 of them. We also are required to report on those annually, and we have to have a storm sewer system map, which we do maintain using GIS and keep it up to date. So let's get into each of our measures. First one being public education and outreach. We do quite a few school presentations, and by we, it's not just Crystal and I. We get a lot of support from our public works utility staff and others in the city. But we go to elementary schools, middle school, high school, things such as during American Public Works Week, talk to all the second graders in the city, bring in some equipment to talk about what we do at the public works level, but also Crystal or I will talk about some stuff with, say, salt application and how that affects the environment for our stormwater piece there. Both Crystal and I have talked to UWF classes or groups about stormwater or stormwater related things. Crystal just last year had an article, pretty good article published in the municipality news or magazine. We also have a cool Plinko game that the kids like quite a bit, and we bring that out at events like the Customer Appreciation event. And then we're a member of Rain to Rivers of Western Wisconsin. I won't get too in-depth into it, but it's a group of MS4 permitted municipalities in our area, Western Wisconsin. And we work with the DNR and UW Extension to leverage funds and help increase education and outreach about stormwater in our area. We did have a recent update on that of switching to a nonprofit so we can actually start including other non-MS4 groups such as the university or other private entities. So that is good. Yeah. For public involvement and participation, so first one was actually educating them. Now we're trying to get people involved. Few programs here, city specific. We have an adopt upon program where residents or groups can adopt upon, meaning they pledge to clean it up a couple times a year and report on what they're finding, what they're seeing. Gives us a second set of eyes and helps benefit the community, keep our ponds clean and community clean. We have about 86 or 87 ponds that are adoptable, and only about 36 are actually left for adoption because 47 have been adopted already. So, and those are primarily on some of the outlying parts of town and the newer developments. A lot of the ponds that are in the heart of the city or by some of the bigger developments are already adopted, except for the northern and eastern parts primarily. Rain barrels, we actually started making our own rain barrels a couple of years ago with the Eagle Scout project. Those have been a pretty big hit, and we actually need to make some more because we're running low, but we sell them at City Hall here for $20. They're a basic barrel, but they get the job done and help get an affordable barrel for people. Again, Rain to Rivers, that same group. One of the other things we do is give some of the money back in form of mini grants to help people get activities related to stormwater done in our communities. And then again with the schools, we have a bunch of them do student work days that we are involved with, whether it's the middle school, high school, or our parks program where we have a science explorers camp and talk to the kids about stormwater and get them involved. So illicit discharge is our next permit measure. Anytime anything's reported to us or we see an illicit discharge, we investigate it. We had one reported to us last year, but after we investigated it, we found that it wasn't an actual illicit discharge. It didn't meet the criteria. It was a grease trap, but we did talk with the owner and get that issue resolved. There's still a little leak, but not an actual illicit discharge. So that was resolved. We also inspect a bunch of our outfalls, around a third of them a year on average, during dry weather to see if something is flowing in there that shouldn't be. Out of those, 7 of them are major, 17 are minor, classifying the outfalls, but none of them had illicit discharges that we found. Next measure is construction site pollution control. Approximately 87 active construction sites during 2018 between homes, businesses, additions, add-ons, new construction. As throughout the years we inspect them, totals up to upper 300s for the amount of inspections, and generally they're pretty good. We usually contact the contractors and they're good at cleaning up or fixing any issues, but we had to issue 4 citations when they weren't getting stuff done right away. Primarily the things we're looking for is the perimeter control to make sure our sediment's not washing off site. And the picture on the right, we can see some of the sediment getting onto the sidewalk, and we don't want that eventually getting into our storm sewer system, so they have to maintain perimeter control, a good rock entrance, stuff like that. So we keep an eye on that. For our post-construction stormwater management section, we issued 16 permits for new sites that had a stormwater structure. Just a couple of the highlights: Glen Park, CVTC, the high school, and Rocky Branch were all issued permits, as well as a few individual houses that are on steep slopes that have a special requirement. For pollution prevention, we try to keep up to date as far as internally for our staff's knowledge. So we have staff attend the APWA Snow Conference and Freshwater Symposium. We did some improvements out at the Public Works Garage. Namely, this year we had a new wash pad installed so we can capture sediment from the wash water of our street sweeper or other vehicles that we wash outside. We inspect our infrastructure, 612 structures, that's manholes, inlets, things like that, and as I already mentioned, our 24 outfalls. Based on our inspections or anything that pops up, we do repairs. We replaced or installed 8 structures and maintained 100 structures. A couple of the structure highlights: we put in 2 down at the power plant, as well as new pipe and a new outfall there. It helped us actually abandon the previously used outfall, which was in a very precarious location and would have needed repair quite soon. So that was kind of a silver lining there. We repaired or installed 4 new outfalls. Just a couple highlights: the one at the power plant, but 2 that drained directly to the South Fork Kinney and 1 to the Kinney. The one that drained to the Kinney, we also lined 130 feet of pipe leading to the outfall to give stability to that pipe so we didn't have to actually dig it up and replace it. We did about 1,000 feet of channel reconstruction on Gulfview to help keep water in the channel there, not in people's yards, and reduce the erosion there. And we didn't repair or kind of dig out or anything, any of our ponds, but we did get a grant from the DNR for about $135,000 to put towards maintaining, actually rebuilding the pond behind St. Croix Street, which gets a lot of water from that old industrial area. And just briefly touch on this, we had a large presentation on this, or more in-depth presentation last year, and there's not a huge update on it. Our TMDL compliance, we are under a TMDL because the Kinney drains to Lake St. Croix, which is impaired for phosphorus. TMDL's total maximum daily load, basically a limit on the pollutant that it can handle. They determined we had to reduce the phosphorus we generate by 47% based on no controls in the city, and we, by we I mean Crystal, modeled the city and found that we already, with all of our systems in place, are in compliance with our TMDL, so we don't have to go above and beyond and install a bunch of new systems. We have to just keep maintaining and implementing our ordinance as is, and we'll only continue to improve. So that is awesome, and that's all I have. The overview, our permit, and our TMDL compliance. If you have any questions.
Go ahead. Mr. Mayor, I have a question. I sent staff a email earlier, and I more just looking for the input. I think Crystal was able to come up with, but it was interesting to me to see the actual phosphorus output the city has, the basin has, the Wisconsin side has, and I was wondering if Crystal could just mention that so we could get an idea of the scale of how well we're doing in the city, but the pressure that's on the whole St. Croix Basin. So
Sure.
if you could.
So
Scott's referring to some numbers that I provided today, and the numbers were taken right from the 2012 TMDL report that was published about the whole Lake St. Croix watershed in general. The whole basin puts out 880,187 pounds per year. That's partially in Minnesota and partially in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin side of the basin puts out 528,902 pounds per year. And the urban areas, the MS4s within the basin, put out 25,707 pounds. Just 2.9% of the phosphorus output in the watershed is from urban runoff. The rural areas then are the other 97%. And the output for the city of River Falls and UW River Falls was 1,571 pounds. So that's 0.2% of the entire phosphorus in the Lake St. Croix watershed. So,
Which I thought spoke quite well for our activities and
yeah,
where we're trying to be, good stewards of the river, and it ain't us. That I came to.
we like to say we're doing our best. Yeah. So, yep.
Anybody else have anything?
I'd like to say thanks also to the staff, Crystal, and everyone else, because this is just an awesome report and a great ongoing work that is happening here at the city. So thank you very much.
So I guess I have a question. What's required of a family to adopt a pond? And can you remind me how many ponds that are left to adopt in the city currently?
Yep, so I'll address your last point first. We have about 36 ponds left to adopt, and some aren't what you'd think of as a pond. They're even like swales or smaller depressions. That's part of the reason why they maybe don't get adopted as readily. But there's 36 available currently. To adopt them, they can contact anyone in our engineering department, but me specifically, or go online to initiate it. We have our Adopt a Pond form there. The basic requirement is that more than one person sign up, just so it's not all one person. Get a kind of couple people accountable, but they said the requirements are twice a year, once spring, once fall. They do a cleanup and then fill out a real basic report that is available online just to tell us what they saw, what they found, what they cleaned up.
When you say cleanup, what's all required?
Yeah,
What's the
so
minimum
nothing.
requirements of that?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. It's a good question. Not talking about getting on your waders or bringing the kayak and floating out in the pond, just walking around the pond and getting what safely can be gotten without going into the water or anything like that, but just picking up the trash, not expected to remove large tree branches or anything like that if they fall down, but that's the type of things that they can report to us, and then we can get out there and with the proper equipment and remove the branch or whatever it may be.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Second question, different subject. With this, do you guys deal with residential permits for stormwater? As I noticed recently that anything over 100 or 1,000 square feet on a driveway technically requires a stormwater permit in the city of River Falls.
Over 500 square feet.
Is it 500? Because I
Yeah.
thought I saw 1,000 recently in the report in our last city newsletter. It provided a link and you go to it.
Oh, well, I can look into that.
Yeah.
Send that my way, would you? But yeah, we've been regulating down to 500 square feet of additional impervious on a site would require some sort of stormwater management. We do have what we call a small site stormwater management application, and it's really a simplified version of, here's the size of depression you need to cut into your yard if you're going to add 1,000 square feet of impervious. So,
And that's just a normal residential lot.
correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I was just curious because it came up and
Yeah.
thanks.
Anybody else? No? Thanks, guys. Great report.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll close the council hearing, open up a public hearing on the stormwater permit, the 2018 annual report. Is there anybody in the audience has anything they'd like to say? Nope, nobody in the audience? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and reopen the council hearing, and I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution approving the 2018 annual report for the City of River Falls WPDES MS4 general permit.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next move on to the consent agenda. First, we have the minutes, River Falls Library Board from 1/7, the River Falls Housing Authority from 1/9, the Powerful Choices from 1/9, the Planning Commission from last November, Park and Rec Advisory Board from 1/16, the West Central Wisconsin Biosolids Annual Meeting was held in last November 15th, and the Historic Preservation Commission from 1/9. And the next one is a resolution adopting legislative priorities for 2019, 19 and 20 for Wisconsin state legislation. Next one is a resolution referring vacation or right-of-way in blocks 78 and 79 of NN and OS Powell's Edition of the City of River Falls to the Plan Commission for report and recommendation. Next one is a resolution awarding bids for Glen Park site improvements. This would award the bid to Haas and Associates and selecting Vortex as the splash pad equipment supplier and authorizing ISG for professional services necessary to oversee the construction. And the last one is a resolution approving electrical work, utility work with the UWRF substation rebuild project. This would allow the city administrator to create and finalize an agreement with UWRF to procure the electrical equipment, cables, terminations, and labor necessary to assist in completing their electric substation rebuild project. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 5D, Plan Commission.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'll take a motion on everything else besides 5D.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of items number 5, A, B, C, E, F, and G, and then items 6, 7, 8, and 9 on the consent agenda.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, number D, Mr. Gagne.
I guess I'm just looking for a clarifying question. I noticed that this consent agenda for the minutes of that was 11/6/18. Was that just due to the holidays? Has the Plan Commission having to approve their minutes before it gets to us? Because it just seems like a large delay before that got to us.
Yeah, so the council gets the minutes after they're approved. So they have their meeting, then they have to have another meeting
Right.
approving the minutes. So they just recently had another meeting of the Plan Commission and approved these. And they didn't have any meetings between that November meeting and the recent one.
Yeah, I just want to say to staff too, I think in the last couple of years that staff has really done a great job of getting the minutes to us in a timely manner and making sure that the council has the agendas on time. That way we know what the boards are doing and we can decide what we want to do and be more informed of what they're deciding for the community. Great job on that. On that same one, I noticed it stated something about 700 South Main Street and a proposed setback, and maybe Mayor Scott or somebody could give me some clarification. It says something about the setback allows 25 feet, but this one would be 12 feet.
Well, it'll be less than 25. They just, that'll all be part of the, once we agree to do this project, that'll all be part of the developers agreement when we come up
Right.
with, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, the concept that brought before us, I think it's going to be a great development. I was just kind of concerned on the setback and any encroachments that it might have with sidewalks or future development
Yeah.
of South Main.
Oh, no,
It'll all be addressed.
It'll all work together, yep.
Okay.
Yep, for sure.
With that, I move for the approval of 5D.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, ordinance 2019-03, adopting Wisconsin Municipal Records Schedule. Now, this is the first reading. Second reading and disposition is March 12th. So does the council have any questions on this one? Okay, next one is ordinance 2019-04, amending section 10.12.030 of the fishing parking control map. This would be no parking between 500 Crescent Street and 508 Crescent Street. There again, this is the first reading. The second reading will be at the March 12th meeting. There again, does the council have any questions on this one?
Yeah, I should have asked this question earlier, staff, and I wouldn't have to bother with it now, but didn't we already deal with this site?
That was further north.
Yeah, not on Crescent.
That was like a block north.
Not on Crescent. Okay, sorry.
We did
Thank you.
some on your,
On
Oak Knoll.
On
Oh,
Oak
I'm
Knoll.
sorry.
Yep.
It's around the corner. Okay.
Yep, around the corner.
Yep.
Never mind.
The issue is there was just not enough space between the two driveways.
Yeah, yeah, for this one, yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, I see.
Next one, ordinance 2019-05, amending section 8.40.050 of the municipal code related to weeds and noxious growth. There again, this is the first reading, and the second reading will be at the March 12th meeting. Does the council have any questions on this one? Okay. Next, we move on to administrator's report. We got anything for Scott, or Scott, whatever you want to talk about?
Mayor and Council, you've got my report attached. There's a few items highlighted. Not too early to be thinking about spring election. Makes us think warm thoughts. So on April 2nd, early voting does begin on March 18th at the clerk's office. And the city clerk will be advertising more about that, what hours and things will be available. Want to say kudos to our crews in the city that have been, battling. I think battling is probably the right word with the snow, and also the residents who are having the same kind of battles now in their own yards, trying to find a place for snow to go if it's higher than the chute of your snow blower or your shoulder height, I guess, in some cases. So keep it up. We'll keep doing our thing on the crews, and hopefully residents will continue to do that. I haven't noticed too many service disruptions. We haven't received any. I've worked in cities where we've received letters from the postmaster or others saying you need to, we're not getting to mailboxes and things. But generally speaking, my observations are neighbors are doing a good job of helping each other out, which I think will need to continue for a little while yet to help everybody who's doing their service. We will be going out with the blower and doing some snow removal in some areas in town. That won't necessarily follow our priority map for plow routes. It's essentially going to be operator-driven, operations crew-driven based on areas we're having, or law enforcement complaints about streets that are getting a little narrow or that we're getting vision triangle issues. But that doesn't mean that there won't be places in town with large piles of snow on especially on the 25-mile-an-hour streets where you may have to stop, yield, look, be more cautious than you would otherwise be if the snow piles weren't there. But certainly on the larger intersections over 25 miles an hour, areas where we have heavy truck traffic or school bus traffic, we're going to do our best to get those. That'd be our priority. But I just want to repeat, we won't be out into most of the residential areas just pulling snow back at the corners to make vision a little bit easier for you, because we won't have the resources to do that, frankly, and continue the kind of rest and repeat cycle that we've had for over a month now. So hang in there. People are still welcome to provide information, concerns, complaints, and we'll continue to operate under the prioritization system we have. We'll continue to be judicious with our use of salt and chemical. We're not seeking bare pavement level of service, especially in the residential areas, so that they will remain snow covered as long as we keep getting snow. And as we get sun, then some of that will melt off. And other areas that don't get a lot of sun will probably have snow covered conditions for a while. So I think we're doing pretty good. People are doing a good job of heeding the storm warnings when they come up and being smart about their travel. But we certainly have had some busy busy times for our public safety folks, and they continue to do a good job, and appreciate all of the office staff and everybody else has really kind of pitched in to keep things going in a good direction. So we do have to do other things other than snow removal still, so we'll keep working on that too. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
I would, you talked about vision triangles and not getting out to every corner, and I think that's definitely appropriate. One corner I would ask that somebody just take a look at is if you're driving south on South 6th Street at Cemetery Road. I leave that corner every morning. My wife's reported it to me, and some of the family that live in that neighborhood have too. The northwest corner of Cemetery at the T at South 6th, if you went straight, it would go off into a town road. That corner is pretty dangerous, and it's a main road, and there's a kid traffic that goes through there every morning for school, by the high school. So, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, nothing else, then we'll move on to the comptroller's report.
The Comptroller's report for January 2019. General fund revenues through the end of January were $495,274 and include the January property tax settlement and first quarter transportation aids. Expenditures for the same period were $451,003, or 4% of budgeted, for a net of revenues over expenditures of $44,271.
Thanks, Dan.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thrilling stuff.
Yeah.